with what our government is doing to enforce its will on other countries. However, here's the real interesting takeaway here. Other countries are now pushing back. That's right. Belgium, Denmark, Finland, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden. They've just joined an effort, and this is unprecedented, to create a trade exchange to bypass the United States. Mind you, these are countries who in the past have always been in lockstep with the United States. So really, we can't help but ask on a day like this, what gives, right? Michelle Greenstein, she's going to be joining us to break this down for us, and she's going to be here with that in just a little bit. But wait, there's more. Tonight, Reuters has come out with a blockbuster of a report suggesting that the Trump administration is considering a total U.S. ban on Huawei. The Trump administration would essentially be telling the second largest seller of mobile phones in the entire world, you can't do business here. You can't do business in the United States. In fact, you can't even be a part of our banking system or use our banking system. It's a very anti-market, almost socialist move from an administration that often brags about standing for just the opposite. And while still not confirmed, Reuters is reporting that the attack on Huawei, a private Chinese company, by the way, is not coming from the Treasury Department, where one would expect something like this would be founded, right? No. It's coming from the National Security Council. The National Security Council. What is the NSC's formal beef with Huawei? This gets us back to our beginning here, right? Presumably that Huawei has or plans to do business in one form or another with Iran. So the question is the United States overreaching? And what might the global blowback be in a case like this? This is where we begin tonight here on the News with Rick Sanchez, where we believe it's time to do news again.
Hey, Shalom Akim. First off, I want to start by saying all praises goes to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Chakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth through the Spirit. Citations go out to the brothers out there pushing this word in all sincerity and honesty. The hopeful elect, I'm the brother Korah Allah, okay. And through the Spirit, I'm coming with a lesson based on the times we're in, which is the downfall of America. All right, or the downfall of Esau's kingdom. Now, as you just read, or as you just heard in the beginning of this lesson, I had the RT News on. It was Rick Sanchez, and he's going into how countries that are affiliated or allied with countries that are allied with the U.S. Pardon the noise. Okay, so these countries that are allied with the U.S. or with NATO and the EU are pushing back. All right, are pushing back against the U.S. decisions. Okay, as far as sanctions on Iran. All right, as far as sanctions on Iran, you have countries that's a part of NATO and the EU that's trying to bypass the America's sanctions. Okay, and how are they doing that? By developing a border called INSTAX, INSTAX, which stands for Instrument in Support of Trade Exchanges. All right. And this made and that was created, which what it is really is like a system, all right, to trade without dealing with the U.S. Okay, that's what it is. So here you have the U.S. giving out sanctions, heavy sanctions, on Iran, all right, and then then on the other side you have NATO, which is basically following the U.S. or supposed to be following the U.S. wherever they go. And you have these countries bucking up against the U.S. and they're creating their own trade system to negate the U.S. sanctions. All right, and it's called INSTEX to do. It says instrument in support of trade exchanges. Now, INSTEX might not be a big deal, all right, to the naked eyes, all right, but through the spirit, we could see the prophecies passing, going into that whore that sat on that scarlet. Matter of fact, I'll just get it. This is Revelation 17, and I can start at 3. It says, So he carried me away into the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast. That woman is going into the U.S. or America. This woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And that scarlet covered beast full of blasphemy, all right, breaking all the law, statutes, commandments of the Bible. It says full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, is going into NATO and the EU. All right, the 7 heads is going into NATO, and then the 10 horns is going into the EU and these are the first countries that established NATO and the EU. All right, it says, So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names, blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet-colored, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations, filthiness of her fornication. Right, and the purple scarlet, a purple scarlet color decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand. Right, and that golden cup, right, along with the whole, the whole description, but really that golden cup is going into the rulership. All right, because America was once a glorious kingdom in its own rights. All right, people will leave their countries and come to America for a better life, a better chance at life. Okay. So that's that beast is going into NATO and the EU. All right, and the whore, or it says, what's it in verse 3? It says, So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. Right, that woman is going into the U.S. because the U.S. is leading NATO and the EU. All right, whatever NATO and EU says, whatever America says or the U.S. says, NATO has to do. Okay, because that was the agreement that they came to. But now it's coming out that these different nations are slowly coming against America. All right. First of all, they're negating the sanctions that they dropped on Iran. Why? Because these nations still want to do business with Iran. All right. France is bucking up, and France is even asking America, what's the point in NATO? Okay, what's the point in honoring? What's the point in being allied in NATO? Right. So that's just showing, these countries bucking up. So a regular person would look at this and whatever, no big deal. But this is prophecy. Okay, this is prophecy and proof that we are at the end times of the so-called white man's rulership. Now this here is Obadiah, uh, Obadiah, I'll start at 6. It says, Obadiah 1 and 6, it says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All right. Now Esau is a so-called white man. All right. And how is that? That's one of his hidden things. His nationality. All right. What else? His lies, his propaganda. All right. His rhetoric. How are these things sought up? Well, first of all, you gotta give all props to, the Most High and the Son, Yahweh Shem Yahushai. But the Most High and the Son put the spirit on who? Our apostles and our elders. Mainly dealing with GMS, okay, to bring out the whole background on Esau, all right, who he is, the international bankers, their New World Order, their enterprise, all right. Bring out who the true nation of Israel is. Okay, verse 7, it says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. All the men of your confederacy, your allies, which is going into NATO and the EU. It says, brought thee even to the border. Right, meaning what? Bring you to war. All right, bring you to a state of war. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. Right, the men at peace with thee have deceived you. All right, because why? Because these nations starting to see, you ain't starting to see the U.S. is really no good. All right, the U.S. is basically full of shit, and they learned that when they went to war with Libya, Iraq, all right, and these other minor countries that pose no threat. All right, so it's coming out. It's coming out the truth on the U.S., man, and these countries are slowly starting to realize that, and the fact that the allies of America will go against an order of the U.S. or bypass the order of the U.S. goes to show the lack of belief or support. All right. I'll continue. It says, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound unto thee. There is none understanding in him. Right. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound unto you. Because these nations followed the U.S. Why? Because they wanted to strive off the success of America. But now that success is turned to failure, and these nations are slowly turning against the U.S. And these prophecies I'm reading about right here in Obadiah 1 and 7, okay, and Revelations 17 and 3 are starting to come to pass. And real quick, let me just jump back to Revelations 17, and I'm gonna jump down to verse 16. Okay, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. And right, and the 10 horns which you saw upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, which is going into the EU, the European Union. All right, which you have members from NATO that are also in the EU. All right, they shall hate the whore. Why? Because they come to find, like I said earlier, they're coming to find out America is full of lies and deceit. All right, propaganda. Okay. It says, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And that fire is going into what? Those thermonuclear missiles. All right, here it is. You got America's developing these nuclear missiles, but they're being entrusted with their NATO allies. Okay, so if NATO and the EU is going to turn against America, you think they're going to give back those missiles? Those missiles are going to be a defense onto them. All right, that goes back into Obadiah when it said, "They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee." All right, now it says, and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For the Most High hath put it in her hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. Now, right, give your kingdom unto the beast. All right, so the Lord had these nations follow the U.S., man, follow America. It wasn't America wasn't just that great and powerful that it just and well spoken that all these nations just decided to follow. The Lord put the spirit in the nation to follow. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigned over the kingdoms of the earth. Now, who else is doing that? What is America known for? All right, the land of milk and honey, where the streets are paved gold. Right? The land of the free, the land of the brave. Right? That's that great city. These other nations, they mimic New York City and these tall buildings. Okay? So when it says the beast shall hate the whore is talking about America. Why? Because America is doing business with all these different nations. All right, that's the whore. Okay, so let me just play a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna shut it off. All right, Rick Sanchez.
The list. The list of the questions we think you'll be asking tomorrow. Just how much
the list is
are
like
U.S. allies?
The vibration that's being pushed out. The vibration or the spirit that the world is in right now. It says just how much are U.S. allies willing to push back against our economic policies. All right, the allies go into NATO and the EU, but this is talking more about the EU and how they're pushing back against the economic policies, against the tariffs and the tariffs and the sanctions on Iran. All right, because here it is, Iran has a lot of material that these different countries could use, for lack of better words.
Willing to push back against our economic policies. Mr. Trump goes to London to talk NATO, but is the alliance somehow coming undone?
Right.
And promising news.
Yeah, you want to talk NATO, but is the alliance somehow coming undone? Which that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. Why? Because it has to happen, man. So that's the time we're living in, the time of prophecies being fulfilled. It ain't quite happening yet, but we almost there. And if you see, look at the signs of the times, you should know what time you in, man. If the Lord is dealing with you to have those spiritual eyes.
Is there finally a treatment for pancreatic cancer? But we begin with blowback, as aforementioned, while the U.S. tries to muscle countries and companies all over the world, including Huawei.
So let me see, real quick, before I shut the lesson off. This right here is Mark 3 and 24, and it reads, and if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. Right? And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself, and he divided, he cannot stand, but has an end. Right, man. And that word Satan there just means deceiver. Okay? So in other words, if Satan comes up against itself, that if it came to rise up against itself, how could it stand? And what's going on with EU? What's going on with NATO and the US? Everybody's rising up against one another. You got France on one side, questioning the US and their leadership. Okay, and then you have these other countries coming up against the US because of the sanctions on Iran. All right. So here it is, prophecy is being fulfilled. And yeah, we're close to the spirit. We know we're close. We're almost at the end of this thing. So with that, I want to say, all praise goes to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh, Hashem, Hakwadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and salutations go out to the Akim out there pushing this word in honesty. All right. The hopeful elect, Lord will impart that number. Shalom.